Dr. Rossi teaches courses in pastoral theology at St. Vladimir Seminary. He was a member of the SCOBA Commission on Contemporary Social and Moral Issues. He has written numerous articles on psychology and religion and published a book through Paulist Press entitled Can I Make a Difference? Christian Family Life Today. After teaching at Pace University for 24 years, he retired as Associate Professor of Psychology. He is a licensed clinical psychologist in the state of New York. Dr. Rossi has a brief bi-weekly podcast on Ancient Faith Radio titled Becoming a Healing Presence. He's joined by Father Nicholas Solak, who prior to his theological studies worked for 10 years in prisons delivering cognitive behavioral treatment to criminal offenders with drug and alcohol addiction histories. He also has experience working with a 12-step program in treating drug and alcohol addicts. Since graduating from St. Vladimir Seminary with his MDiv degree, he has been the parish priest at Holy Trinity Orthodox Church in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. Additionally, he is an assistant professor of pastoral theology at St. Vladimir Seminary and a member of the Doctorate of Ministry faculty. He is a member of the OCA's Pastoral Life Department and the program director of the OCA's Thriving in Ministry program. Thank you both for leading us today.
Thank you, Jessica. This is Father Nicholas Solak. I'm going to be speaking now with you for a few minutes about the Thriving in Ministry program, and then we will be breaking into small breakout groups for about an hour, a little over an hour. Before we go into those breakout groups, Dr. Rossi is going to speak to us a little bit about the goals, the objectives of those breakout groups and what we'll experience in those groups. I'm going to say, so I don't forget, this is being recorded, but when we do go into our breakout rooms, those breakout rooms will not be recorded. We would encourage you to practice confidentiality in your breakout rooms. Whatever is said in the room, those rooms, stays in the room. That creates an environment of trust, where trust can emerge and trust can happen. I am the program administrator and director of the Thriving in Ministry program. It's a program of clergy peer learning and clergy wives peer learning. We began this work, Dr. Rossi, myself, and others, a little over 5 years ago. It came about by the experience of isolation. Can leaders be isolated? Well, absolutely, they can be. Can parish priests fall into isolation? Absolutely. And my experience of being a parish priest led me into a place of dark isolation and creating myself to be a very poor leader and a poor husband and a poor father. And so working out of that place of isolation led us into peer learning, where we came together, parish priests, to talk about our priesthood, to talk about our parish ministry, to break out of isolation, and to become better priests and better leaders. Two words I'd like to share with you, relationship and authenticity. Leadership is all about relationship, and it's all about being authentic. And our peer learning group strives to bring us out of isolation and into relationship. And where you have relationship, you have Christ. We say to one another, Christ is in our midst, and we respond, He is and always will be. Wherever we find relationship, we find Christ. And wherever we find isolation, we don't find Christ. Also, in relationship, we find ourself, our authentic self. And through peer learning and talking about ourselves, our priesthood, our ministry, our leadership, we move out of isolation. We become better priests, better pastors, better husbands, better fathers, better leaders. And so too with our clergy wives, who have a very particular ministry within parish life that also lends itself to an experience, or can lend itself to an experience of isolation. We have right now about over a dozen clergy peer learning groups and clergy wives peer learning groups. We've been doing this work for over 5 years. We got a fairly nice grant from the Lilly Endowment to begin to expand this and grow this. And we are doing clergy peer learning cross jurisdictions. So just not, we're from the OCA, but we're doing clergy peer learning with priests and priest wives from other jurisdictions in this great effort to be good, strong leaders, priests, and pastors in the work that we do. So that's our Thriving in Ministry program. I'm going to throw it over to Dr. Rossi now, who's going to talk to us about the peer groups that we'll be entering in here in a few moments.
Thanks, Father Nick. And yes, a few words. You will all now be going into groups. And the question is, okay, so what? What is supposed to happen? Why are we doing this? It's not about problem solving. You're not going to emerge in an hour and say, oh, good, I had a problem, now it's fixed. No, it's about bonding. It's about connecting. It's about, to use the word, loving. Even though we don't know each other, we can get to know each other. And this is what life is all about. Father Nick did just say about Tim, Clergy Peer Learning Groups. Yesterday, I facilitated priests from Eastern Pennsylvania. Father Nick was part of that group for their 24th time. Typically, we would go all day, 10 to 3. Now we're on Zoom. Yesterday evening, I facilitated their wives for the 13th time. There's something golden happening here, and that's what we're going to try to give you a taste of. So I'll not talk a lot. It's about Christ and trying to become more like Christ. I will show a couple of slides and help us be clear about, hey, what is really going on for the next hour? What's the goal? Through the experience of peer learning, you will discover how facilitators, whom we've trained, how they use active listening, threaded conversations, the comfort with silence, direct invitation, and safe parameters to engage in small group discussions that increase vulnerability and accountability. Basically, it's about becoming more Christ-like. Christ is all. And though this has always gone on in church, in parishes, it's also new. There's a new explosion happening because before, I've been at St. Vladimir's for 27 years on faculty council, there was an unspoken kind of thought that priests and parishioners go do the same thing, go to a parish, be there for a long, long time, do a good job, and die. Well, that produced some saints, but produced also some very angry, disillusioned people. Now we're discovering at all levels that threaded conversations and small group learning makes a big, big difference. So what do we expect as results? Authentic small group interaction with non-judgmental sharing and no complaining can soften one's heart and paradoxically strengthen one's will. So you are expected to reflect on the experience as you go along and afterwards and ask yourself, okay, how might I use this effective group process in my life and in my parish? So, Brother Nick, that's all I'm going to say.
Thank you, Dr. Rossi. Holly, I think you can send us into our breakout rooms.
Well, people sound happy. Dr. Rossi, we're all back now.
Good. I would simply say to you, whatever happened in your group, of course, included the hand of Christ. Of course. And it happened differentially for each of you, facilitators and participants. And now the task is, it's all over. The task is, how can this get crystallized and recrystallized and resynthesized as a experiment, as an experience, as a process to carry forward? How can this now be implemented better by me? And that's a very important question. I gave a talk to a priest on Tuesday about this stuff, about active listening and thread discussions. And I discovered yesterday with my priests and wives, I began to do it better than I ever had after 24 sessions. We all have a beginner's mind. And that's all I want to encourage you with, that what we did has to do with what we did and it's over. But it also has to do with the future and your participants and you and me in our parishes and our settings and how we can use these skills to become more Christ-like. That's all I want to say. Father Nick?
Thank you, Dr. Rossi. I just want to speak again the two words that I began with. relationship and authenticity. That's the name of the game. And that's, we have great theology, we have great spirituality, and we're all grateful for that, and we all live into that. But we are also looking for Christ, and Christ is in a relationship and in our authentic selves, and that's what we have to strive for. We talk theology, we talk about our spirituality, but peer learning is teaching each other how to live that theology, how to live that spirituality. Thank you.
Yes. It is about vulnerability and weakness. I'm an alcoholic in AA, and we continually say we lead with our weakness. So right now, if I said to you, oh, I just got news that I got the Nobel Peace Prize, that would separate us. You in your mind would put me on a different pedestal. But if I say, oh, I'm a little bit anxious right now, that brings us closer together. We need to continually lead with our weakness and become a little more vulnerable with each other. Right now, I'm looking at Charles. Father Nick and I stayed overnight with Charles earlier this year. And if there's anyone who models for me weakness and humility, it's Charles, among all those others.
You obviously don't know me well enough.
So that's all I wanted to say. Holly?